Yesterday you met author Roscoe Ovalak. Today you'll meet a new author, Richard M. Lovelace Jr. Coming up next on All American People. Good morning. Welcome to All American People. This morning we're at the Conway Area Chamber of Commerce. We're focused on dealing with women. And we're visiting with the author of the book, Dealing with Women, A Survivor's Guide, Richard M. Lovelace Jr. Good morning, Richard.
Good morning. Good to be with you this morning.
Thanks so much for coming in early on a Friday morning. It's thrilling particularly to get you back, having been here with us yesterday morning. And of course, the Conway Area Chamber of Commerce. What a great facility.
It really is.
They have got so much going on. Earlier in the week we had Bob Guffey, the minister from First Baptist Church here in Conway, who, as we sat here, looked across the street at the great facility there of really reaching out to the community, the CAP Center across the street. And of course, all week long, having had some guests, but getting you in yesterday was a treat, particularly highlighting the book. And I think you brought some poetry with you today to share with viewers. But before we get into that, for viewers who may not have caught you yesterday, a little bit about yourself. Are you originally from the area?
No, I was born in Alexandria, Virginia, well, in Columbia, South Carolina. My father was in the military. So we lived in Tokyo, Japan, in South America, and in Kansas, and I lived longer than anywhere else in Alexandria, Virginia, across the street from Gerald R. Ford, who later became the president.
Is that right?
That's right.
Y'all grew up across the street from a gentleman who became the president of the U.S. Was that kind of cool? Did you know his Mike or some of his children?
Knew all the children.
Is that right?
Yeah, Mike and Susie, and
wow.
So my sister used to babysit for Susie, and it's just a community thing.
Yes, yes. How exciting! And of course, you've been here in Horry County. I think you shared with us yesterday. Is it 37 years?
37 years. That's right.
Amazing. How exciting!
Been a good trip.
What is it about Conway that you love so much, Richard?
Conway's got a gentle dignity to it. The flora and the fauna, and you can go 100 yards down the river. You can go 50 yards in the woods, and just have a pristine environment. I don't know if you've ever seen the aerial photographs of Conway, but there's a series of woods that are contiguous all the way up to the North Carolina line.
No.
And that's a refreshing retreat that takes you a 3-minute walk.
Oh yeah.
And that's nice.
Do you get out a good bit? Do you walk through town a good bit, get a feel of it? I think I saw, even though we focused on you as a writer and as an author, you're an attorney here in Conway.
I am.
Right. Which pays the bills, or helps pay the bills, so that you can do writing.
It does help pay the bills.
That's exciting.
It's fun. It's a great combination of really avocations, because both my profession and my writing are avocations. I see them more as avocations rather than vocations.
Right, right. How exciting. You shared with us yesterday a little bit about what got you guys to Conway. I say you guys, excuse me, you and your bride, St. Rebecca.
St. Rebecca, that's right.
That folks would see a little bit about if they pick up copies of the book, Dealing with Women, A Survivor's Guide. But what got you all here originally 37 years ago was not necessarily the beauty, the fauna and the flora, as you say, but there were other reasons why.
Well, it was an opportunity to raise my children in an agrarian society, which, having lived in big cities, New York and Washington, was it's a vanishing experience, and I certainly had anticipation that they would grow up here and move somewhere else, but you can't move from the city to the country. I think the move is the country to the city.
To the city. How exciting. How old are your boys now?
One's 33, and he works for a hedge fund in Palo Alto, and the younger one's 31, and he works in commercial real estate in Columbia.
So both of them are in good-sized cities. One in a Palo Alto, close to San Francisco.
That's right.
And the other one in Columbia, obviously a state capital, and the location, I believe your alma mater, where you finished law school.
That's right.
There in Columbia, University of South Carolina, which folks would learn if they pick up a copy of your book. Here it is, Dealing with Women, A Survivor's Guide. You can go online to Amazon.com to pick up a copy. You can also buy a copy at the beach at Ooh La La, and here in Conway at least 3 locations.
Right.
Encore Gifts, Crown and Country, and Park Smith.
It's Mark Smith, that's right.
Here on Main Street. So some great locations, and copies have been picked up. It sounds like there was one location you shared with us yesterday that had sold out pretty early on.
That's right. I've sold close to 1,100 copies.
Wow, Richard.
And you know, Amazon.com sold out, but I've got to order some more. It's been kind of a snowball effect. It was very, very slow in starting, and word of mouth has certainly been helpful in marketing.
Oh yeah. One of the things I was going to ask you about yesterday in putting the book together, was there a certain number of pages that you needed to have to actually put something to print, or was it purely the amount of great quality content that you needed to have?
Well, what I did, I just looked at the aggregate content, which was essentially 3, I guess, protracted letters to my sons on a variety of topics, and I thought it was almost a midget trilogy.
Yes, yes.
Where the topics blended together, and I didn't think that there was anything else on any of the topics that needed to be said, at least by me. and I don't think that there was a whole lot of information in this book that's been said by anybody else.
Yeah, really?
That's
yeah.
right.
Now I was wondering about that after you read it, and I'm sure you picked up some copies of other books back in the mid-90s when you were creating the first part of the trilogy, back in '96 when your first letters went out to your 2 sons. And at that time, in '96, they would have been what ages? They
14 and 17.
14 and 17,
Right.
okay. And then, of course, in 2002, as folks will see in the folio too, when they pick up a copy of the book, and then 2007, only a couple of years ago, the year before the book was published, when the last part of the trilogy came out. Any things that you shared in part 1 that maybe would have been better to share in part 2 or 3, or some things that you shared in part 3 that maybe you should have shared in part 1?
Well, there were really 3 distinct topics, and what I did was cover as best I could part 1. Part 2 came later in time, and part 3. I have one thought that I perhaps may have shared that could have caused some upset with the ladies with blue hair.
Ooh.
And I had to, you know, exclude that. But the first book I was going to write, Pat Conroy and I were in competition to write that book. It was about the Commandant of Cadets of the Citadel.
Uh-huh.
And that was in the fall of 1968. And of course, I was on active duty at that point in time. And Pat was teaching school outside of Beaufort, and he had the time. And so he beat me to it.
He got you.
He got the job.
Yes.
So, anyway.
We highlighted yesterday that you're a graduate of the Citadel.
That's
you
right.
mentioned that indirectly right there. And during your time, which you shared with us yesterday, you actually fell in love with writing to a great degree because of a class you took kind of to have fun with your dad.
That's right.
That prompted your poetry writing.
It did. You know, again, the bulk of the poetry I wrote in the early years was parodies, humorous satire. That's pretty much what I stuck with. But I guess it was the night after they unveiled the Vietnam Memorial that I sat down and did my really serious first piece of work. Subsequently, as a result of my introduction to certain folks in the military and how they progressed throughout their year and our continuing friendships, I became more and more involved on a peripheral basis with special operations, Army Special Operations. One of my best friends in growing up commanded one of the squadrons for Delta in the incursion of the Iran Rescue. Another good friend of mine commanded another squadron. And David Grange, who was with the Ranger Company in Vietnam when I was over there, commanded the Ranger Unit.
Boy.
So we kept up over the years, and I've done some work as a contractor for the Special Operations Command, in particular trying to provide short takeoff and landing aircraft that perform at high altitudes, because helicopters certainly don't function there.
Right.
And in terms of delivery of supply troops and support troops, you need an aircraft that can either deploy paratroopers at 25,000 feet, or you need an aircraft that can come in and land and take off with a fully combat loaded special operations team in 900 feet.
Golly.
So that was something I was
And that
involved
can be
with.
done, I guess.
And it can be done.
Incredible.
It can be done.
Incredible.
And was introduced to some wonderful rogues and rascals with great histories in the Special Operations Command, in particular as their founders, who also, as special operators, had involvement with Iran-Contra,
right,
and smuggling Stinger missiles into northern Afghanistan to support the Mujahideen.
Golly, Richard.
But anyway,
this is almost another life for you. I mean,
it was.
Your life as a writer, your life as an attorney, your life as a father and husband, and then clearly your military life and special operations life. That's incredible. And probably a handful of other lives that you've lived that we're not even talking about today. You were kind enough to bring in, though, as you were getting into right now, a piece of your poetry. You shared with viewers a little bit yesterday some great nuggets from your book dealing with women, A Survivor's Guide.
Right.
And in a different survival sense, clearly your service in Vietnam was a heck of a lot about survival, but in a totally different form there. Would you be willing to share with viewers one of your pieces here?
You know, what I'd like to do, I don't think a lot of folks fully know or appreciate what our special operations forces do.
I'm sure.
The complexity of what they do, the stealth within which they do it, the total lack of recognition they get, and the constantly at-risk aspect of it. So let me read you a poem that I wrote about that. It's titled Special Operations, Warriors. Some people dote on money, some people long for fame. I work in rain or sunny, you'll never hear my name. I've never said can't do it, no matter what, I'll try. Today I train for living, tomorrow I might die. I might be home for Christmas, only time will tell, or wading across the isthmus or jumping into hell. Well, Willie, he speaks Spanish, and Jody, he speaks French. Carl can curse in Kurdish, and Walt can blow a trench. Now, Norman likes the MP5, and Roger likes the knife. We keep the hostages alive and rescue those in strife. You'll never hear us on the news. There'll be no press release. We come and go to foreign muse, and you enjoy the peace. So as you go to work today and wonder where I am, assume I'm back at risk, not play, and headed to a jam. Americans in trouble, guerrillas in a spat, by rope or shoot with stubble, we come and go like that. So what's our nomenclature and what might be our caste? It changes with the nature of this mission and the last. I am my country's warrior through bullets, blood, and gas. All other castes are sorrier. I am the warrior caste. The warrior caste, we're God's anointed few. Shadows on earth you might just pass, protecting all of you.